Okay, folks, let's talk war, not the fun kind with water balloons and witty insults, but the kind where people get hurt and stuff gets blown up. Yeah, not cool. Here's the thing, even in war there are rules. I know, right? Seems counterintuitive, but imagine a world where anything goes, where there's no line between right and wrong, where grandma gets drafted to chuck grenades. Chaos, utter chaos. That is why we have got these things called international laws of war. They are like the rule book for when things get really, really messy. They are supposed to protect people who are not fighting like civilians and set some boundaries on how nasty things can get. Because believe it or not, even war should not be a complete free-for-all. So what are these rules, you ask? Well, they're mostly laid out in some seriously important documents. Think of them as the 10 commandments of warfare, but with more articles and subsections. First up, we have got the Geneva Conventions. These bad boys are like the MVPs of war law. There are 4 main ones, and they cover everything from how to treat prisoners of war to how not to use weapons that cause unnecessary suffering. Yeah, some folks actually had to sit down and write that down. Then there are a bunch of other treaties banning things like chemical weapons, landmines, and those creepy blinding lasers from Star Wars, because some things are just too messed up even for war. Now you might be thinking, okay, rules are great, but who is gonna enforce them in the middle of a war? Good question. That is where organizations like the United Nations come in. They are like the referees trying to keep things somewhat civilized. They send in peacekeepers, monitor ceasefires, investigate war crimes, and generally try to keep everyone from going completely off the rails. Of course, it is not a perfect system. The UN can be slow, bureaucratic, and sometimes downright powerless to stop the big guys from doing whatever they want. But hey, it is better than nothing, right? Section 4, remember that time, war crimes and stuff. Sadly, these laws get broken all the time. We have seen it throughout history, from the horrors of World War II to more recent conflicts in Syria and Yemen. Remember those chemical weapon attacks? Yeah, that is a big no-no according to international law. Or how about targeting civilians and hospitals? Also, super not cool. When these laws are broken, people are supposed to be held accountable. That is where international courts like the International Criminal Court or ICC come in. They put perpetrators of war crimes on trial, even if they're heads of state. It is a long and complicated process, and it does not always work perfectly, but it is a way to remind everyone that there are consequences for committing atrocities, even in the chaos of war. Section 5. In conclusion, be cool, not cruel. So why should we care about all this legal mumbo jumbo? Because as messed up as it sounds, war is probably not going away anytime soon. And if we are going to have rules for everything else in life, it makes sense to have some for the times when things get really, really bad. The international laws of war are not perfect, but they represent a glimmer of hope in a world that can often feel pretty damn hopeless. They are a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is still a line between right and wrong, and that we should always strive to be on the right side of it. So yeah, war is still a real buzzkill, but at least there are some rules to try and keep things from getting even more messed up than they already are.